Shivio Naina Deva Abnuvan Purva Marshat Thadavato Nanyate Titishta Tasmin Po Matarishvadadhati. My dear brothers, my sisters, my fellow souls, children of one God, Namaste. So today I'd like to bring, and Haiji, I have to do justice to Bhai Behan Daiwanti's birthday. Today the subject matter is the light in our lives. What is the fastest thing you know? Most of you will say light. But I'll disagree and I'll tell you that mind is the fastest thing there is. If you want to go to Guyana, you will have to go to the airport and take an airplane. And if you have a direct flight, it will take you 5 hours. But if you want to take your mind to the most favorite spot in Guyana, all you need to do is think about it. One of my favorite spots in Guyana is sitting in the veranda at our home at number 66 Village with my legs hanging off the edge, feeling the breeze. I think it and I'm there. I can feel the brisk sea breeze in my face. I can smell the salty air. I can hear the birds and the kiskadee singing in the corner. All by thinking, and I'm there. I am there at the speed of thought. With that thought, what drives that thought? You see, that prana, that life force I spoke so much of, when that is not within the body, that's when we know somebody is no longer with us. This mantra talked about there's something that is faster than the senses. What is that thing? That ever-present consciousness. Let's talk a little bit about this light. There are two kinds of light. I'll tell you something you know, but possibly you have not delved into it a lot or deeply. There are two kinds of light which makes you see. The first kind of light is what falls upon an object. And then it illuminates the object and you can see the object. So let's call that light the outer light. The outer light, the sun, the daylight as we call it, it illuminates things and we can pick it up with our sense of sight. But if you have the power of sight, if we turn off all the lights in this room and we make sure no light enters this mandir, you will see nothing. Why do you see nothing? Your power of sight is still intact. You can still see, but there's nothing to see because there's no external light that illuminates anything, so you could not see. So what is the second kind of light? Verse 6 of the Kena Upanishad tells us, Ya chakshusha na pashyati, yena chakshumshi pashyati, tadeva brahma tvam vidhi, nedam yadidam upasate. Mantra says, that which cannot be seen by the eye, but by whose power the eye can see, that alone we ought to know as Brahma. Not that which people worship, not the physical things that people worship. By the light of the Atman, the inner power of the inner light, that is what makes us be able to see. So the second kind of light is the power which powers your sense of sight, so your eyes can see and pick up that signal and send that signal to your brain. That is the second kind of light. It is your consciousness. Through it and because of your consciousness, you can see what you can see. Like just in the dark room, if we turn off all the lights, you have power of sight, and it cannot see because outer light doesn't light things up. But what drives the power of sight is that inner light. It is the same with all your indriyas, your senses. Your sense of hearing picks up sound because of that same power that powers your sense of sight. It is the same energy that powers your sense of taste and your sense of smell, that same inner light. So this we call the inner light. Both forms of these light have originated from the divine consciousness. However, we experience the two in distinctly separate ways. So let's look at one of these differences. The external light shows us the same thing. There is a chair. We all see a chair. We all see it because of the light that lit up the chair. But some people might see a chair. Some people might understand more about the chair and what happens when its capacity is exceeded. I'm sure some of you have used a chair as a ladder and you know what could be the consequences of that. Me, I am an engineer. I understand the chair differently. I understand what goes into making the chair, and I understand the process and how to calculate the capacities that the chair can take. I see the chair differently. You see, so even though the outer light up the same thing, we see it differently based on that inner light and how much of that inner light we utilize to understand what we're looking at. So another example, me and my Dharmapatni Dee, I love going to the beach early in the morning and we look at the sunrise. But you see, even sitting there, our different levels of understanding. One person might be looking at the sunrise and still be missing his bed, wanting to sleep. That person sees the boring sun rising above the water. Dee and I, however, we see the spectacular beauty of the sunrise as it raises beyond the edge of the water, the horizon. And it brings tears to our eyes, tears of joy. We see the same thing, but we see them at different levels of understanding. Right? This happens to us all the time. You taste something, you say it's very sweet, for somebody else it's not as sweet. You see something might be hot for you, for somebody else they want more pepper. Me and my wife at home, she wants the volume of the TV down, I want it up, because in my work, I experience noise. My hearing is a bit compromised, and that goes for many of us. So it's almost as if our senses are calibrated differently on different scales. It also depends on how we abuse our senses. Like I said, me in loud environment, somebody who did drugs and different kinds of abuses of the body, their senses are compromised differently. They're dull or non-existent. So let's get back to this inner light. The inner light determines how we perceive the outer world. What do I mean by this? This little piece of wood. It's a mango wood from a mango tree. If 10 of us gathered here when we look at this wood, many of us will still see a piece of wood that we can distinguish from anything else. Some of us may know better and say this is hardwood. Some of us may know which tree it comes from and what's the variety of the mango that grew on that tree. Some of us may know, you talk to a scientist, he might tell you where it originated on Earth. You see, different levels of knowledge about the same particular subject based on our inner light. So this is why we're here. We're here to share our experiences. We're here to collectively sit here in satsang and help each other to grow on this journey. This mantra we recited today from our Sandhya. Udvayam tamasaspari swapashyanta uttaram devam devatra suryamaganma jyotir uttamam. I explained this, but they talked about Jyoti, the supreme light. This, the most supreme and luminous of all, that drives and powers this light that we call our inner light. You see our Vedic teachings, our Eastern philosophy, you hear about the comparison of light and knowledge. We say light of knowledge, right? Without light you cannot see. Without knowledge you cannot understand. But you have to utilize the knowledge like I said before. You can't just collect the knowledge and say, yes, I'm knowledgeable. I can't come to you and explain and tell you what to do without I doing it myself. I cannot come to you and say be truthful if I lie. I cannot come to you and be kind to all of God's creatures if I go and eat God's creatures. I cannot do that. It begins with me. So, like we were saying, if we have determined that you're in a room and it's totally dark, there's no light coming in, your sense of sight have not disappeared. It is still intact. In the same way, you have the innate ability to understand. You have the power of mind to think and to comprehend. But if you do not have the knowledge, then there's nothing to understand. So we come to Mandir and we listen and we learn Vedic knowledge, and then we use this rational mind to analyze and to make Vedic knowledge a part of who we are and what we will become. And if we don't do that, then essentially we are the parrot. We recite things for the sake of reciting things. So let's go back to that dark room. You're alone, you're in that dark room, you feel along the wall, you found a switch and you turn on the light. And because you turn on the light, you can see. You won't trip over yourself and hurt yourself. You can choose to leave the light on and see, or you can turn on the switch and suffer alone in darkness. How many of us know people who choose to suffer alone in their darkness? Yes, there's many of us. It's a choice. The same way the light of knowledge is given to you, you still have a choice of whether to use that knowledge or not. My fellow souls, you still have your power of rational mind. Fill your mind with the right kind of knowledge so that you can rationalize, you can think, you can analyze, and you can utilize and implement the knowledge in your life. And only then it makes a difference in your life. I'll leave this last mantra. In the same vein, it talks about this universal presence of God. Many of you know this mantra. Vedametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya-varanam Tamasa Parasat Tvameva Vividva Atimrityumeti Nanya Pantha Vidyate Anaya. Anyone who realizes the presence of that divine light within themselves. When I say realize, I just don't mean that you know it's there. I mean realize it's inside yourself so that you have become one with that within you. And anyone who has taken that level of thinking, listening to the intuition, connecting daily with that divine presence within themselves, that person, fear not even death. There is no other path but this. So in today's pravachan, I gave you something to think about. We spoke about the outer light, which illuminates everything we see. And hopefully I've started some of us are already there, but hopefully I've started some of us in understanding that inner light, that consciousness through which those powers to understand, to see, to think, to smell, to rationalize, all of that from that internal light. In closing today, I pray that you're motivated to continue to use your inner light, your intuition, your knowledge, your intellect, your God-given capacity and potential to rise above the level at which you see and understand everything, so that you find yourself and those around you, you bring to yourself and to them, your family, your friends, your loved ones, peace, love, bliss, unity, and happiness. I thank you all for being so kind, patient, and attentive today. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevadashishyate. With love and humility in my heart, namaste to each and every one of you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.